Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Hello, everybody. It's great to be back with you, David D'Arcangelo, for another episode of Save As Ability. We've been getting a great reaction so far, so please like, comment, share, keep that coming so we can keep this content flowing for you. So today, I want to talk a little bit about self-identification and self-disclosure. What's the difference and why do either? I've gotten some questions and I've worked through it with several organizations. And let's start with self-disclosure. Well, self-disclosure of your disability in the workplace is relative to you having a conversation with your coworkers and letting them know. It's generally an informal process of you sharing your disability with somebody, a coworker, and again, saying, I was having challenges doing this, or, I am this, or whatever the case may be, but it's sharing that information. Self-identification, though, is a little bit different. That's more of a formal process between you and the employer. Not just your coworkers, but your employer, and letting them know, hey, I'm self-identifying as a person with a disability. So why do that? Well, there's a couple of different things that I'd like to talk about, and some of that is from the company perspective. Some of it is from the persons with a disability perspective. So let's start with the person with a disability. Really, so the self-ID process is a way to start the interactive process and the dialogue with your employer about any reasonable accommodations that you may or may not need to do the essential job duties within your job. And so that's important because oftentimes, and we've discussed this in previous episodes, the disability may not be apparent, or at the time of hire, the disability might not have been present or may have not impacted the essential job duties. And then over time, for one reason or the other, either your disability has increased or the job duties were recently changed or something. So having that self-identification, self-ID, it's often called, on file with your employer is really going to be important. It's going to be important for you as the person with the disability. It's also going to be important for the employer because you don't want to lose your job over an essential job duties that maybe you can't do as well because of something, or the employer doesn't want to lose you either. They have time invested in you and you've been a good employee with them. And, so it really suits both sides to be able to have that self-identification on file. And again, really to be able to work through the reasonable accommodation process. There's an interactive process that takes place there. And really that's what's going to help be able to provide the employee with what they need to be successful on the job and as productive as they can be. And then for the employer, because the employer obviously wants an employee that's productive and feels included. And that really kind of then goes back to the other piece, the self-disclosure piece, where you're telling your coworkers or, people more informally about your disability. Well, we all want to work in a place where we feel accepted and included. And so both of these are important to the overall inclusion at a company or at an organization, both for the employee and the employer. So there's elements to this too that we've talked about in previous podcasts that are relevant. Like, how do you then define disability? Are we using the ADA definition? Are we using a more specific program definition? I would say, by and large, and the obligations that employers have, is to use the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA definition of disability. And that's the three-pronged definition that we've gone over. substantially limited in one or more major life activities. So it's important to know, though, that this self-identification process is voluntary. And I really encourage it, though, because I think that is best for the employee, for the employer. And don't you want to be in an environment where you can be yourself? This is called self-identify for a reason, because it goes to your identity. Now, for me, personally speaking, my disability doesn't define me, but it is part of the overall definition, right? There's components of that. I wouldn't be who I am without having the disability. So it might not be the definer, but it's part of it, if that makes sense. So, but you don't have to do it. I do think it's in best interest of the employee and the employer, but that's going to be a case-by-case thing. And, depending upon the environment, but don't you want to work in an environment, and as employers, don't you want to be promoting an environment where people want to be able to identify? And so, again, we talked a little bit about what the difference is between self-disclosure, self-identification. Maybe it starts with a self-disclosure. Maybe it starts with you sharing it with your coworkers and talking it through. But really, that self-identification then is going to help when it comes time to have an interactive process, to have a reasonable accommodation. And those are good things. Because again, if I'm the employer, I want to be providing my team, my employees, with the tools to make them as productive as can. What do you need to be most successful? Most accommodations, most reasonable accommodations are less than $100 and can be had easily and can increase productivity. So that's what we really want to be doing, is promoting this interactive process that, again, I really believe starts with that self-identification, the self-disclosure. So then it becomes, well, are there forms for this? And how do I know this? I actually make recommendations that it not be a monolithic approach. What do I mean by that? When I say it, I mean the self-identification process. Traditionally, the way it's happened is like some formal form that everybody has to fill out. There's all kinds of personal information on it. I don't know if that's the best way to start. To me, the best way to start is to have a form that surveys everybody in the entire organization and is anonymized. In other words, doesn't have your name on it, doesn't have your employee number on it, anything like that. That way, you're promoting an environment where people can answer. Then have that be the first step in a process, where you can then message and train and let people know, hey, we actually do have a more formal process where you can work confidentially with your supervisor and manager on a confidential basis to talk about your disability and what the organization can do to accommodate your disability. Because in some instances, the accommodation might not even be anything. It might just be, look, I'm identifying as this, and at some point in the future, maybe I will need an accommodation. This is all part of the identity that goes with being a person with a disability. It's some people like me are, yes, that's part of me, and I'm very pleased to talk about it and to share all kinds of information about it, and others aren't, and that's their right. And we should respect that, because at the end of the day, there is privacy and everybody deserves that. So, but I do think it's about creating an environment, creating a culture of inclusion within your organization. Now, these processes, though, are part of it, and I would encourage both the employee and employer to explore this. There's plenty of resources out there from Ask Jan. We just went over it during National Disability Employment Awareness Month. If anybody needs access to those resources or information, anything I can share, it's all free. Please contact me, David at archangelcommunications.com, or message me. You can find out how to get in touch with me. But I wanted to go over some of that today. Again, we're trying our best here. to be as inclusive as we can for people with disabilities, provide access to opportunities. That's what I'm all about. I'm fired up. Let's go. It's David D'Arcangelo. We're talking about ability here. Save as ability. We'll see you next time. Hope you have a great day. For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.